Hello, it's the forecast for the week of August 10th through the week. We're still in full moon in Aquarius land, which included Saturn and Aries ruling the Aquarius full moon that happened at 16-17 degrees. We know that Saturn in Aries is the anchor point of this full moon, with Mars in Libra and the negotiation and the opposition that's happened in the last 48 hours. Neptune's in on the game. Put it this way, my thoughts is when we're to take the Saturnian view of independence, spiritual walking alone on the quest and the path, that is the story of this Aquarius full moon. I think you have to incorporate the Aries part of your chart in this, even though the full moon's in Aquarius. We go back to the beginning of this year when we had the new moon in Aquarius. I actually was in Australia 6 months ago when I made that video. I was with Cameron Allen, actually. You can go back, maybe I'll link it up here. And here I am 6 months later here, which so much has happened for all of us and for me too. But that energy's around. Mars in Libra will force and want to do relational activities. Maybe go over the top, maybe too insistent, even in the nicest of ways. And Saturn in Aries is kind of like, what do you want with me? Give me my boundaries. I'm in my spiritual quest cave of contemplation, and all that energy, in a sense, is fueling the full moon in Aquarius. I talked about it on the video last week. Interestingly enough, as I say on this channel, I always say interestingly enough, is that Mars then is made in opposition to Neptune pretty much as I'm making this video. And we have illusions in those relating situations. We want to take the chill approach if possible. Maybe it's too late for you to hear this message. Mars has to make another aspect, and it's going to happen on the 10th, your Sunday. It is at 5:29 a.m. Pacific time that Mars will trine Pluto and kind of finishes going through the gauntlet of these outer body planets, or starting with Saturn and going through Uranus before all that, and creating a grand air trine that was on the Thursday. We went into the full moon on the weekend. We have the oppositions Mars made to Saturn and Neptune. And here we are, Mars trining Pluto and Aquarius. Now, 2 weeks ago, when we did the new moon in Leo, we had Pluto opposite the new moon in Leo. Pluto's in the background the whole time here. So we like this connection. We go to a deeper place. We go to a higher mind type of place, and it's an oasis in the sky, in a sense, for those who have Libra placements, Gemini placements, and Aquarius placements. There is a powerful connection here between Pluto and Mars. There's a sense of empowerment and a deeper power play involved, but not of negative consequences, I feel, in my mind. It's more of a bigger outlook on things. And as I said on last week's video, I think this week and even the month of July till right now is a precursor to what we're about to do next year, when all these planets like Saturn and Neptune are finally solidified in Aries. Uranus will be solidified in Gemini. Pluto will be too in Aquarius. We've had the hints here the last month and a half. Now we're slowly backtracking as planets are going retrograde, and we're going to do that for the rest of the year. So, saying that, I like Mars-Pluto situations regardless, even if they're squares. I think stuff happens and there's no turning back with those types of placements. In the background of all this, we know that Mercury's been retrograde for 3 weeks almost now, and it's pretty much in the next 24 hours from August 10th. It's actually August 11th at 12:29 a.m. that Mercury will station forward at 4 degrees Leo. Finally, after doing all these transits and having Mercury retrograde through it all, it's been a wild one. It's been a wild one for me, with software crashes, miscommunication on emails, not getting emails still that I need on a business end. I'm not the only one. Everyone has had a Mercury retrograde story last couple of weeks, and it's been a doozy, and it's a benefit. We have to remember these situations are a benefit because we get to take what we've learned or what came up to the surface from an internal expressive place with Mercury and Leo, having to rewire, re-understand, reclaim what it is to do our creative expressive formulas that start from within and eventually will be expressed outwardly in the next so many weeks, as Mercury will finish its transit in Leo as we go through August into September. Okay, so we start to move forward with Mercury here on the 11th. Remember, when Mercury stations, it doesn't just go to the next degree in a day, it kind of stations around that degree. And we're still at a standstill, but it is a marker point for moving forward. As we're in the middle of these transits, we leave the Aquarius moon place and we go into Pisces moon. And I still think things are not as grounded as they could be. So we want to move slow in the next several days. I am careful with Pisces moons in general. Now, if I look at the aspects Pisces moon is going to make, it's going to square Uranus off the bat. It's going to trine Jupiter. It's going to trine Venus. It's pretty good, right? Hitting the Cancer stuff. And then on the 11th, it's going to be conjunct the North Node for those who are attached to the eclipse story. We have an optimistic outlook at the intensity of the full moon, but I don't think we should set anything in stone. So saying that, when we get to the 11th at 8:31 p.m. on the Monday, Pacific time, Saturn in Aries sextiles Uranus, and this is a sneaky aspect. This is a sneaky aspect that is happening here, and again, it's part of a story to set us up for next year, in the next couple of years. When we deal with Saturnian structures and creation and the step-by-step process that Saturn gives us, you know, at times it can be stubborn or not want to see any other way and kind of get locked in and constricted. And a planet like Uranus in Gemini here is going to throw the ideas in Saturn in a fire sign and kind of light a fire under the constriction. So even though Saturn always needs time in a step-by-step process, Uranus in Gemini here is throwing a little bit of like trickery involved in a fun way to Saturn in Aries. And as we know, Mercury is stationing in Leo, you know, ruling Uranus in Gemini. There is some sort of forward-looking placement here. On a mass cultural level, this is where we have shifts in how we move together in societies under structures and pillars that we stand upon. But with Uranus coming in, it's throwing a different outlook on the structure that we stand upon in culture and the world, and what Saturn wants to build the next so many years in Aries and dismantle for us before it rebuilds. Uranus here throws the mind trickery on here. And if you know anybody who's a Gemini, you watch this channel, you'll know that I'm doing things differently or coming out of the blue and taking a twist on things. If you take that and you're talking to an Aries placement situation like Saturn in their contemplative cave on their spiritual quest, it's like a little bird, a little bit of somebody, a being with wings chimes in and says, hey, check this out. And it's actually somewhat stimulating for the Saturn and Aries, right? So if you take rooted structures that we build upon in culture and we have a little bit of stimulation, especially after Mars and Aries was in a conflict zone the last so many days with Saturn, the Uranus comes in here and throws a little lightning bolt to Saturn and Aries and gives it some fresh forward thinking, right? Something zapping them, something that gives them, in a sense of a little bit of a crack in the opening of the sky of the brooding Saturnian story in Aries. So that happens. 3 hours later at 10:30 p.m. Pacific, we have Venus. Venus, let me give you kisses, okay? Let me comfort you. Let me hold you. I'm Jupiter in Cancer, right? That's what I'm playing right now. And then coming to Jupiter or Venus in Cancer, and we're wishing and we're hoping. And it's coming from a place of what we would want in the Cancer part of our chart that gives us a sense of connectiveness to family, to our past, or what we would want in that area in our life, for instance, wherever Cancer is in your chart. And we're making a wish and we're envisioning with this one. I talked about this on previous videos in the last week. We have the conjunction that happens exactly at 10:30 p.m. Pacific on the 11th and in the 12th for some other people like me in another part of the world. It's an I love you moment in the silence. It can be. Whether it's with somebody else, really with yourself. You know what? I was thinking about sometimes we have our demons in the past, you know? We all have it. I mean, I don't think anyone's past is perfect. That's what it is. We might portray ourselves that way, but some have a harder past than others of where they come from, and some create their own stories now because they don't want the past that was given to them because it wasn't them. It's hard, filled with memories that are dark, let's say. There's other people that have had a pretty decent past or come to a place of understanding or where they come from. And then there's what we can create, our sense of comfort and placement in the world and home. And the biggest thing I think through that is I think of this Venus-Jupiter moment as in, like, if you ever seen the up-close pictures of when sperm hits the ovum to create life. So they have a up-close of sperm hitting the egg and it's penetrating it. It's like that moment to me. And the reason is Cancer to me, a lot of the times, is we're progressing lineage, family, home. And the way we do it initially on this planet is through conception, is through creating life. Whether it's literally creating life or it's in our creation, we are carrying stories forward in that way. So it's a conception thing, and I think it's the base core part of what Cancer is. So besides what home and family and memory and ancestry means and all the things that we do with emotional processing in Cancer, there is a thing that's about conception and conceiving. Now you could take that in any other way you want, literally in your chart or in the Cancer part of your chart when we're dealing with conception and creation and the depth of that. And think about this moment of Venus and Jupiter in that way. That's how I've been thinking about it, and I will be talking about more of this in the next couple of months when Jupiter is going to go retrograde, and we'll see how this conception wish, this movement in a loving and visionary way, Jupiter being the visionary, the expander, in one sense, the vehicle, the balloon or the vessel to bring things higher in elevated form, and also the philosophical nature of Jupiter and how our ethics and the philosophy are connected to how we expand the vision, like what's behind it, right? The dream. And then here's Venus, who just wants to harmonize in Cancer and wants to fulfill, in a sense, bring love to wherever it is. So you bring love and that vision together, and in Cancer, we're dealing with the past, we have conception. And so if you want to think about it that way, you've already been thinking about it, this is the week to do it. That's what I'm doing in the Cancer part of my chart. It's also affecting where my moon is right now. I have a mega thing going on. I'm not the only one, okay? These transits were coming out here in the weekend. It can be difficult. We got eclipses coming up in September. The Jupiter-Venus connection right now is your place to hold and to create with, and then, in a sense, eventually fulfill, even when all the other wild transits come here in September and part of this month. Quick version of what I'm thinking about that. Maybe I'll pull another video off for each sign. I didn't have time to do this, but yeah, I'm just thinking about the egg penetrating the ovum. Go look at a picture. Go Google search that. You're going to see what I'm saying. And it's pretty much what we do. I mean, it's what we do. If it's a musical note, you're pressing, and you do two musical notes together to create a chord, it's the egg. It's the sperm hitting the ovum, right? Is it a romantic thing, or you acknowledge each other as somebody you love romantically, or it's love for a family member or something else, and there's the acknowledgement and seeing each other, but not in a mental way, but it's an emotional, heartfelt way of connection and being heard and listened to emotionally, and someone confirms that? It's the sperm hitting the ovum, right? So that's how I look at life, and that's how I'm looking at this. The next day on the 12th, moon goes into Aries and it all starts rumbling. So we have this Jupiter-Venus moment with the moon in Pisces, right? And some of the transits in the last 48 hours. And we all of a sudden Aries moon, and it goes Aries conjunct Saturn, Aries conjunct Neptune, hits all the outer body planets. And we're gonna have moon in Aries be opposite Mars in Libra, right? So it jumps right back into the ruggedness of things. All the way, I mean, we go 12th, 13th. Moon in Aries will square Jupiter and Venus in Cancer on the 13th. Trine the Sun, we move through the middle of the weekend on the 14th. At the end of it, at 1:24 a.m. on the Thursday for Friday for other people, this is a special message I'm about to give out here. The moon is going to conjunct Chiron and Aries at the later degrees. I've talked about Virgos recently and people with heavy Virgo placements of what they've been through here recently with Mars and Virgo and what they're going to go through here again with eclipses coming up. The other sign I would say that is dealing with challenge is Aries. I think after the eclipses for the last year and a half, and they have Saturn and Neptune in their sign giving them a hint of what's about to come the next several years, you know, and Chiron being there at the late degrees. If you have late degrees Chiron placements, here comes the moon. And then we're looking at a Mars-based sign, so we're paying attention where Mars is, and now it's in Libra. I don't think it's easy. If you're Aries or Aries rising, you have Sun, Moon rising in Aries, all that kind of stuff. Listen, I'm up to listening to you. My bookings hit up after the 22nd. They're there. I'd really love to talk to you all who have Aries placements, honestly. I know this story very well, along with the Virgo story as of late with clients. They had Mars in their life. So it's a very Mars thing. I'll be straight up and honest with all of you. My clients for the last 2 months have had very Mars situations happening. And it's because in one way too, this is how astrology works for me. I'm a Saturnian astrologer. A lot of people come and see me whether they know it or not, and they're having Saturn stories and Pluto stories in their life. But on the distinct way these days of what's happening to me is people are coming to me with Mars stories. And I divulge this. From a Hellenistic point of view, I am having a major Mars year here until next June. So I'm having Mars stories come to me, and I'm living one right now. I'm speaking and understanding the language. You see what I'm saying? Hit me up if you're looking for some insight. You can check out in the copy down below. We get to the 15th or 14th moon goes into Taurus, and it leads to a Mars in Libra sextile. Newly moving forward, Mercury in Leo, and here is where I think Mercury gets its first bursting out of the retrograde, and it's starting to express outwardly. And Mars in Libra, in a sense, it's giving it the style and tact and the aesthetics to do it. After Mercury being internal and going backwards and messing around and effing up and pressing the wrong buttons and the signals getting crossed or having to go through the sun and deal with the internal expression and see what's one's worth and value and where creation comes from, especially the Leos, it's time for whatever happened during the retrograde to come forward. So here we have the first chapter of this, of moving forward, and Mars in Libra, in a sense, gives an opportunity to Mercury and Leo, and it's a little bit of a pressure release for Mercury and Leo. They're being seen outwardly from the external place. Mars and Libra is like, hey, I see you and I'm acknowledging you. Like Libra will acknowledge everybody in a room before they even, well, that's a whole nother story about Libras putting themselves down on the ladder because they're trying to harmonize situations constantly. But in this case, Mars makes a really good connection with Mercury and Leo. That happens 7:04 p.m. Pacific on the 14th. For those 15th on the Friday, I think is a sneaky little aspect of the week. I think it's one that we all need after coming out of the retrograde, and we start to implement how we do things externally and expressing through Mercury and Leo and how we're relating to the world with the help of Mars and Libra. The 15th, we got last quarter moon kicking in, and then we got the moon in Taurus making aspects with Jupiter, Venus, the North Node, all positive aspects, by the way. And I wish you could see the bird coming up to me right now. Let's see if I could do this. Hi, buddy. How are you? You coming to say hi? I don't have any treats. No treats. But you sure are beautiful. Oh, hi. That was cool. Yeah, so people watch my channel. The birds are always coming in my videos. I'm blessed. I'm totally blessed. I'm blessed by Athena with owls and the crows in my life. Doesn't matter what part of the world I'm in. The birds and now sea mammals, whatever, they're coming my way. Talk about some mercurial communication going on. That was a nice little friend meetup there. The 15th, Moon and Taurus will make harmonious aspects to Jupiter and Cancer as a sextile, and with Venus that day, and with the North Node in Pisces. Venus will trine, the Moon will make that, and Venus will trine the North Node actually at 6:18 p.m. A nice little place for Venus to hit the nodes, for those and even those Virgos who are dealing with the eclipse story, you get some magic this week, later in the week. And Venus comes through with the messages with Jupiter, with the conjunction, and it carries it over to the nodal eclipse story. And we sure that we take anything we can get for those Virgos who've been dealing with the South Node there. And here Venus makes a sextile to the South Node and a trine to the North Node and gives us a home, a place to express our feelings and to deal with the details and the little things that Virgo does in the South Node, what it has to release, and then the vision and hope of Jupiter, which is the planet that rules Pisces, and we know is in Cancer right now. We dig this connection, we take it at the end of this week. The wishes and the conception that I talked about, Venus and Jupiter, carries over to the nodal story. And we want this because of what's about to happen when we get into the next new moon at 0 degrees Virgo at the end of August, and then into the eclipse story in September. So, another incredible aspect at the end of the week, I would, if I were you, and you Virgo placements out there, the story of how you let go and how you trust mystery and the unknown is key here. And it's very hard when you're used to having a system that is giving you progress in the past, but sometimes that doesn't work anymore, and we have to clean house, to clean mind, or to clean soul. And in order to do that, we somehow have to trust the unknown and say to ourselves that everything's going to be okay, or we ask the universe for guidance when there isn't anything written on the to-do list or the details. We have to surrender to something like that, if possible. I know many of you with Virgo placements actually probably know how to do this and probably had some insight with Mars going through your sign here for the last month that we just had. Venus here comes in to help enhance, I think, the way we move through emotions. And I think it's not logical. It's not mercurial based, right? It's stomach, solar plexus, heart based way. And we have to allow ourselves the space and time to come through emotionally. If we are going to get logical about it, you can go on Google here and search for an emotional wheel. Like, I forget what they call them. They're basically these color-coded wheels that have these words in them, and it's to help you name your emotions. It starts in the basic one word, and then there's subwords on the outside of those words, and you can help hone in like what you're actually feeling, because those who are mentally caught up have a hard time understanding what they're feeling and naming it. So that's an example of what a Virgo's placements or heavy Virgo placements, even the Aries in the weirdest way this week, can help them like, oh, let me get out of my head. But here, if I'm going to use my head, I am happy. I'm disappointed. Like, it's naming the emotion and then sitting there with it in a safe place that, in a sense, purges, but at the same time, as you purge, you cook up the more metaphorical, warm, nurturing soup that Cancer brings and that Pisces brings in water to replenish, to calm the nervous system down, and to bring things back to center. So those are some thoughts there. We get to Saturday and the moon goes into Gemini, and then we do Gemini things. We do moon Uranus at 11:11 on the 16th and the 17th, zinging out. Now you think about this, you remember that in the beginning of the Mercury retrograde, right after that, the next weekend was the moon went into Gemini and hit Uranus, and at the same time Mars was in Virgo conjunct the South Node. So Virgo and Gemini are both ruled by Mercury, and the moon was there, and Mercury was retrograde, and that's when everything started popping off retrograde-wise. That's when it kicked in, like all the mishaps and shit. All that stuff happened. Here we are, we're a month later, and moon's gonna hit Uranus and make all its aspects to Saturn in fire, to Uranus, to Neptune in fire, trine Pluto, sextile Mercury, trine Mars, all in a day on the 16th and the 17th. And then on the 17th, Mercury in Leo will sextile Mars. Did I already do that aspect? That's odd. We have a double one. Oh, yes, we do two in a row. This is what I wanted to say. So basically, on the 14th, Mars touches Mercury, which is pretty much stationed at 4 or 5, And then Mercury catches up with Mars a couple days later. So the Mercury-Mars sextile that I talked about earlier, about the Leo expression happening, it just continues through the week. I actually, when we get to the weekend with Moon and Gemini and Uranus, I think is when we really can kick some butt and learn and apply the lessons learned during Mercury retrograde and apply them for the next several weeks, and we pretty much lock that into motion on the weekend. So, did I even take a breath? My quick thoughts about the week. And we're gonna deal with some certain aspects in August, but what we're really gearing to is the end of August, new moon, September 1st, Saturn will go back into Pisces, and we're gonna hit a huge, huge eclipse month in September. So for now, take care of the retrograde stuff this week and start to apply it. Inseminate the ovum of creativity in your life with the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. Whenever I get by a body of water in the next year, I'm going to try to make my videos there, because I think it's very important for me on a personal level that I'm connecting the mental gifts that I have with what I'm feeling on the inside, whether I can name it or not. And that water you see behind me is always a dream to me. And every night, especially since my birthday, I've been recording my dreams and the things coming through. And some of the things that I say on the videos, they come to me through my dreams. And I do the best way I can to transmit what I'm feeling. It's more spaces of color and guest stars from important people in my life, and the memories of the past, and the visions, of what is happening, what's going to happen to me. And you've heard me talk on this channel about how those things happen. I see them a month later, I'm in real life, and I'm like, I dreamt this, I was here before, I know this. A lot of it's been water-based. So, you never know with things in water, with something like a Venus-Jupiter conjunction that we're dealing with this week, and what it turns out to be, or what we look for, or aspire, or seed in that moment of creation. You don't know how the story's going to play out. But on anything, if you haven't figured out life yet, and how the planet works, and how people work, or how you work, it's all based on a story. It's all based on aspiration. Or there's the other darker part of it, like what's going to happen if this doesn't happen, or blah, blah, blah. We're all contemplative. It's all contemplative. You take the Eastern point of view, especially from the Buddhists, about living in the moment to quell those kind of thoughts. But at the same time, I'm a believer too of being in the moment, but also envisioning in a positive way. And even if you don't know the details, and it's not exactly in the way that you want it to be, but it's the adventure and the mystery that you go on once you envision and embark on, once you start climbing the mountain. And this week is like that, for me at least. And this body of water, or where I find myself to be, is part of my envisioning, and it's going to fuel my astrology and fuel this channel. So, I always end my videos getting a little personal. I send the best to all of you, as always, and thank you for your support. And if you're new and you made it this far, hit the subscribe button. Horoscopes are coming in September, October for my paid members. And I have some other 3 questions videos that are about to pop up in the next week that I've done traveling. And it all funnels into the vision I have and what I'm trying to do. And to stay open and creative in my life and connect with my dreams. And when I'm dialed in that way, I get to help other people, And that's my life. And that's what I want my life to be. What do you want your life to be? What do you want your Cancer part of your chart to be in the next year? Think about it, all right? Do whatever it takes. You got to write it on a piece of paper. You got an altar. You got to stand in front of the water like me after I'm done and make that wish. Do what you got to do, okay? Have a good week, everybody. My paid Patreon members, YouTube members, you already have a 3 questions video you can view right now. There's another one coming this week. And if you have any questions, you can hit me up on email, all right? See you later.